The most valuable skill that you could possibly learn is learning how to learn, which ironically is not taught in any schools. There's a quote that I came across, I don't even know, a few years ago that's always stuck really deeply with me. And it comes from Mark Twain. And essentially he said, I will never let my schooling interfere with my education. And that's something I repeat often. It's a mantra, honestly, I live by. And for those of you who don't know, schooling and education are not the same thing. The word schooling comes from the Latin scholar, which simply means the place for learning. So schooling, all that means, if you receive a schooling, is that you've consistently gone to the same place where you're supposed to learn things for a certain period of time. It doesn't mean that actual learning has been taking place or actual education. It just means that you've been going there. Education, on the other hand, comes from the Latin educare, which means to bring forth, like bring forth that which is within. So education is actually bringing forth your innate talents and gifts, waking up these dormant gifts within you. That's what true education is all about. But unfortunately, the world of schooling that exists today, the systems in place, are more often than not in the business of indoctrination and not education, right? All of us have been bombarded with all this rote memorization and just regurgitating facts and knowledge like parakeets. And we're not actually internalizing and turning what we're learning into any form of lived wisdom. There isn't the passion behind it. I heard one interesting perspective from a legendary depth psychologist. Her name is Louise von France. I think I'm saying that right. She was one of the Jung's proteges, Carl Jung. She says something along the lines that, like, when we're actually learning something that we're super passionate about, that there's a deep interest in it, it's like we're imbuing it with our life force, and then as a result, we learn so much more. But when we're in a system that we just have to do things because we're told that we have to do it, or that we're force-fed various forms of knowledge, and then the result of our grade of just, if you can parrot it well, then you're going to receive a good note and receive your good external validation from someone else, and that you've successfully obeyed your authority. When that's taking place, there isn't that same, libido, that energy being put onto your work, and that's one of the differences we're going to get into between self-directed learning and the schooling system and how it's set up. And this is what stifles our potential. This is what cuts off our connection with our soul, and as a result, leaves us lost, leaves us not truly bringing out our gifts within us. And I believe that those of us who embrace this golden age that we're living in for self-directed learning, for learning whatever it is, there is no force on earth that can stop you from learning whatever it is that you want to learn. I had this profound epiphany. I'm so grateful to receive this. I remember I used to hate reading. Reading was a chore that I had to do because it was an assignment. I never liked reading. It wasn't until around 16, 17 that things really, something switched and clicked in me. I just became obsessed. And, I think I was like 19. I was reading like a really tough book. It was like an Austrian economics book or something in Nature. And I remember I just had this profound epiphany that was like, there is no force on earth that can stop you from learning whatever it is that you want to learn. There's nothing that can stop you. You want to learn about botany? Go and find the botany textbook that's taught at the top, that the top botanist or whatever learn. And you can just study directly from that. You want to learn law? Go and learn law. Like you can find the same book, study the same things. There's nothing the only thing that can stop you is your own personal degree of interest and passion. But whatever it is that you have the passion, the flame to learn, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. You can get access to that. We have Literally, it's the perfect time to do that. Before getting into the golden age and all of this, I think it's nice to revisit some of the critiques of the schooling system, because we've been suffering from this. How many thousands of hours have those of us been sitting in these systems that have been stifling our potential? And where does this come from? You know, when I was researching this, one of the most fascinating intellectuals who've critiqued this, and even the word intellectual, I don't like that, because his name was John Taylor Gatto, and he was an excellent public school teacher. I think he was he earned an award for like the top public school teacher in all of New York, the state of New York. And he published some profound books critiquing the schooling system. If you kind of like the direction that I'm going in with some of the critiques to schooling, you got to check out some of his work. And even some of the titles are so provocative. They really stick. Like one of them is called Weapons of Mass Instruction. And another one was called Dumbing Us Down. And something else about like the history of like the US public school system, something like this. And yeah, so he dove deep into it. For those of you who don't know, the US public school system was founded by a man named Horace Mann. And I don't believe Horace Mann was an evil man or anything. I think he was well-intentioned. But in the early 1800s, I think it was 1838, somewhere around there, he visited Prussia. And at the time, Prussia was one of like the rising countries, very well respected in Europe. And he really respected and admired their schooling system and how they were training the future civilians to be obedient in industry workers, you know. And they set up a schooling system with like the bells of the different periods and funneling the students from one place to the other, and like the compartmentalized, fragmented learning experience and all of this. And they were treating the people like machines, and were training them in that. And that was perfect for that time period of the industrial age, right? And they were training these machines to be efficient, to grow the economy of the country and the wealth of the nation and all of this. He was so impressed that they essentially copy and pasted that for the U.S. public school system in the early to mid into the late 1800s. Before, a lot of people don't know, we actually mostly did homeschooling. And then if someone was particularly talented, they could go to a college or university to study more. But like homeschooling was the norm. You know, I'm just going to put that out there. But why did I mention all of this critiques? Because we still are existing in 2025, or whatever year you're watching this, past 2025 or later, and we still have these systems in place. We're still learning from this outdated industrial model. Like, this is a crime. This is literally like a crime against humanity that we haven't updated that. This is the future. This is the youth that we're talking about, right? This is a problem. And the three main problems that I think he's kind of repeated throughout his works, the one was the overemphasis on obedience to authority, that we are more rewarded for obeying, in more cases than not, a false authority. Someone just put up there to recite a certain curriculum that they don't even care about, but they're just getting paid to do it. And we have to obey this false authority, and the better that we obey this false authority, the better our grades are. So we're literally, the incentive structure is not to promote creative solutions, innovative thinking. It promotes docility and obedience and compliance as the ultimate. And that makes sense if you want to create an industrial society of obedient slaves and factory workers. That's the perfect system in place. But is that the system that we really want for humanity? Is that ideal? You know, so that's one of the big critiques that he's brought up. Another one that he brought up was the overemphasis on external validation, or over-reliance on external validation, as in constantly needing, before we can move forward, needing to always get the thumbs up and check from a higher up before we can actually go and learn what we want to learn or do what we want to do. It's like, you know, when you're in class, if for those of you who've been in class, right? Like, you need to raise your hand just to go to the bathroom or things of this nature. And of course, I'm not opposed to all forms of structure. There has to be some form of hierarchical structure and respect in a learning space. Absolutely. But there's a degree to which, at what point do we become so over reliant on these external validations that we lose touch of our internal validation of what's springing up out of us naturally, what we actually want to learn, right? So that's another huge critique he's brought up. And the last one, which is super potent one, is the the fragmented knowledge in how the schooling system is structured. You don't have to hop from one class to the other. I don't know exactly how your learning experience was, but for me, for instance, it would be like quick, like 40 minutes of history, and then like 40 minutes of English, and then 40 minutes of math, and then 40 minutes of something else. And you just get bombarded with all these different fields. And on the surface, it looks like you're efficient because you're getting a little bit of everything really quickly, right? But how are we able to we're not given the opportunity to piece together all these different fields of knowledge in a interconnected and holistic way. You know what I mean? We're just bombarded and just forced to rote learn and regurgitate all this different information back. And the successful parroting of this fragmented knowledge is considered success. But how are we able to see links between biology and philosophy and agriculture, for instance? You know, how are we able to start? Because if we can't think in a holistic manner, in a generalist manner, there's no way we can bring any innovation at all. So we're literally stifling our creativity and ability to innovate. So, I mean, yeah, there's more critiques we could go on about, but those are the main ones, and I mean, they're powerful ones. So, okay, Jamal, it makes a lot of sense, but what should we do? Well, the alternative that he proposed, which I agree with, is self-directed learning or becoming an autodidact, which is not relying on anyone else to tell you. You can just learn whatever it is that you want to learn. And that is really the ultimate key to freedom in all senses of the word. Freedom financially, freedom to develop your career and however you choose to develop it, freedom in your relationships, freedom in how you can improve your relationship with your own body and your health and nutrition and exercise, and freedom in all facets of how it could possibly mean. You can obtain that when you can learn it. You know, they say the whole knowledge is power. Well, knowledge is potential power. When it's applied, it becomes wisdom. But if it's just information that you're regurgitating, it's not power. So we're actually disempowered in the schooling system. But you become empowered when you become so passionate, have that inner flame and zeal for whatever it is that you're learning, and then you're actually doing it, putting into action. That's where the most of learning takes place. I mean, really. And all of us are in the golden age to learn. Like literally, we have YouTube University at our fingertips. We can learn anything. Search it up on the internet. Search it up on ChatGPT or whatever, these LLMs and stuff. I mean, you can find whatever it is, or any book or anything. It's literally all at our fingertips. So I believe right now is the perfect opportunity for the new Renaissance man or new Renaissance woman. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the concept, the Renaissance man, the idea is it's like Leonardo da Vinci, right? Artist, inventor, sculptor, scientist, all these various different multi-passionate interests and desire for mastery in different fields, and how it all blends together in this beautiful symphony of brilliance. And everyone can access that to various degrees, especially now is the golden opportunity to do that. And you can learn whatever skills that you want to learn. Some can be more lucrative. Some can be skills like copywriting, web design, content creation, asset management and finances, like all this kind of stuff. There's more lucrative skills that can help with the financial side of things. And then there's maybe more artistic skills, all these various different things. And you can start to like skill stack. They call it like a software developer, for instance, right? And like a software developer, you can they call it full stack, where you're like front end and back end, and we can do the same thing with our own lives. We can become lifestyle architects through learning whatever it is that we want to learn. And there's no force that can stop that. So we need to embrace being generalists, knowing that we do have to specialize in the market. That's a whole other thing. But like, we can learn whatever we want to learn. There's no force that can stop us. And the future belongs to the self-educators. The future does not belong to those who are waiting for other people to tell them what to do. Those are the people who have historically always fallen behind and have always been the most enslaved, but you don't have to fall to that fate. So I hope this can be an inspiration to pick up that book you want to pick up or learn something new that you wanted to learn. So yeah, with that being said, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this kind of material, consider checking out my free newsletter and resources and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, thanks again for tuning in. And as always, until next time, peace.